make a modification to that. Do you want to read that out, Councillor Bernardo, or do you want me to read out the modification?
No, I've got it here. Okay, whereas due to the many requests by seniors for more senior housing over many years, and in light of the provincial government's recent amendment to the growth plan in 2019 related to wind boundary expansions, related to urban boundary expansions, now therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to receive any application submitted by Flato Developments and work through the process as outlined in the Planning Act, and further that staff will report back to council on any progress of such application on a quarterly basis.
Okay. We have a seconder for that motion. Councillor Buffett. So Jennifer, just help me out. When we're modifying a notice of motion like that, is that on consent?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any members of council that object to the amendments made to that notice of motion? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Bernardo, do you want to speak to the motion at all?
I think the motion is pretty clear. There have been many requests over the years by seniors, and if an application does come forward, I believe in the correspondence that will indicate it has for a seniors residents. I think working through the planning progress will maybe get what seniors require.
Okay, Councillor Buffett is seconder. Do you have any comments? Oh, you're on mute again.
It seems to take a long time for that to unmute itself. Anyway, I just wanted to concur with Councillor Bernardo with regards to this. It is a very important item that is something that the community has wanted for quite some time, and I'm looking forward to seeing something happen on that front.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, Councillor Bernardo, you had a second notice of motion.
I will withdraw the second notice of motion.
Okay. Okay, so that takes us to Councillor Fegan's notice of motion, which was a notice of motion instructing staff to investigate creating a no stopping zone on the north side of Jane Street from Owen Sound to Willow. And the request was that that staff report be brought back to council by October 5th. I don't recall if there was a seconder on that. So is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hall. Okay, Councillor Fegan, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The biggest issue that we have, and it certainly has been evident as of last week, we saw an accident that was rather severe right on Owen Sound Street last week as it happened. The biggest concern that I have is obviously for safety. The fact that Jane Street is coming directly off of Owen Sound Street and the increased traffic that we are experiencing, it is becoming a rather hairy zone for people who are turning into the neighborhood or even trying to get out onto Owen Sound Street. When the cars are parked along that north side of Jane, it makes it very, very difficult to see, and it makes it very difficult to maneuver. As I mentioned, when I put the motion forward, I have personally seen many people, pedestrians as well as cars, nearly hit. And I'd rather see something done prior to that happening rather than be responsive to it.
Okay. Councillor Hall, any additional comments?
Just again, as Councillor Fegan was mentioning, trying to take a proactive approach to safety in the area, I think is key and paramount, and that's why I'm supporting this.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Bernardo?
Just a quick question. When staff is doing their investigation, I would hope that they would consult with the owner on the north side that we're proposing to stop. I think they have some issues with what we're proposing, and I'd like to hear his comments.
Okay. Jim, does that timeline still work for you for October 5th?
Through your worship, yes, that should work. I've done some preliminary work with Jennifer on that, as well as site visit myself. I haven't talked to the business owner yet, but I will make a point of stopping in and just getting their feedback as well. So.
Okay, great. Anything else? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion's carried. All right, then we have 3 notices of motion from the deputy mayor. The first was direction to staff to remove the parking spot ahead of the north bus stop to eliminate safety or liability exposure to the town. Sorry, northbound bus stop. Was there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bernardo. All right, Deputy Mayor Anderson, do you want to speak to that?
Thanks, Mayor Mills. As many of you know, I had the good fortune to do that first run from Shelburne down to Orangeville with representatives from Gray and driver's seat. On our return trip back, as the vehicle pulled into the stop, which is the stop in question by the IDA, I think everybody on board that vehicle recognized that where the stop is currently located with that parking spot just ahead presented some safety issues. And so in speaking with the driver of the vehicle, speaking to the representative of Gray County, they certainly were sort of appreciative of any efforts that the town could take with respect to eliminating that parking spot just ahead of the stop in question, which would then provide easier access, no blockage to sight lines. And obviously for safety reasons, it seems to be the best move. Secondly, when it comes to the stops being illuminated by lighting, first of all, it's very difficult to see the signs as is. And I could only imagine in the wintertime when it gets, even now as we see the sun going down much earlier, but to be able to see those signs, whether they're on Main Street or on Owen Sound, and I'll address that at a maybe notice of motion that I'm hoping to bring before the evening closes. But I think the illumination of the stops themselves will make them more visible, and it will also provide what I believe is a safety feature to those stops as well.
Okay, Councilor Bernardo.
I agree totally with the deputy mayor. I can't see how else a bus can pull in there and safely pull into a place to load people. If you're going to do it on with the parking spot, somebody parked there, you know that people are going to walk in between parked cars and whatnot and try to get onto a bus, and it's just not a safe situation for people trying to get on.
Jim, what's involved in removing a parking spot?
Through your worship, staff already has removed the painted parking area. So we painted over that with black tar paint just to remove that area and move the no parking sign further to the west. So that parking spot has been removed today. I did notice the bus, since it is right outside my office window, was able to get in there today, and I didn't notice anybody parked there over the course of the day as well. So they seem to be paying attention to that, or the general public is. We have had some concerns from Gray Transit just on location of bus stops that we are working with the CAO as well as our GIS coordinator, possibly to move the southbound one off Main Street onto Victoria, just so it's a little lower traffic area, as well as alternate locations for the bus stop at the north end of town. So just on the on the note of illumination at this point, we'd just like to nail down ultimately where Great Transit and ourselves, just for snow removal and such, is good spots that we're not going to have issue with. But it seems like that northbound one does seem to be okay where it is right now with the removal of that parking spot.
Okay.
So the motion actually speaks to the illumination and then the sketch. So I appreciate that the parking spot has been removed. I'm not sure, Jim, whether that the sketched the sketched lines have been placed, or it would show that that area is designated for the vehicle to pull into that spot, and whether it's on that side of the road or on the opposite side of the road. And I appreciate that even with the stops being determined for, I guess, its final resting place, that we still move forward with providing some lighting in the area wherever the stops may end up.
We actually had the chevrons as a second separate notice of motion, but okay.
Okay.
So we'll vote on this one first. All in favor? Sort of a moot point, I guess, at this point, but anyways, that's good. Okay, carried. Thank you. So then the second notice of motion from the deputy mayor at the last meeting was a direction to staff to insert chevron sketch lines to highlight the bus stop locations and to provide lighting at each stop. There's a seconder for that motion. Otto. So Jim, you said you're already talking with Gray about the lighting and sort of where they want to see it. Was there any discussion about painting lines to demarcate where the stops are?
Through your worship, that is something we can do once we have final locations nailed down. Sure.
Okay, right. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah. So so I just want to understand: is it is in your discussions with Gray, are they suggesting that they will be providing the lighting, or is that ultimately up to us? Because I was left with the impression that if we wanted to provide the lighting, they were basically green lighting and saying, if you want to do it, that's fine. So I just want to be clear, who's ultimately going to be responsible for providing it?
Through your worship, Gray Transit is responsible for producing and locating signs, so they'll relocate them wherever our final resting place is for the stops. The lighting would be up to us, so we'll have to come up with some way to affix illumination to whatever pole or U channel the signs are affixed to. Some of the U channels basically are stop signs, that sort of affair. I've never seen a solar light attached to one of those, but I'm sure we can come up with something there anyways.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Can I, just one more comment?
Sure.
I guess it's in Toronto where they have the signs where it says bus stop on them. And I'm not sure even if they have them on the road painted as bus stop as well. Can we get one of those, what do they call it, where you paint on the road?
Stencil.
Headlight stencils? Can we get one of those that says bus stop on it?
Through your worship, we can check into that with our provider who provides our accessibility stencils, as well as the Sharrow bicycle markings. I'm sure they have to have that. So.
Okay. I think the spirit of your motion, Deputy Mayor, was just sort of, painting on the roadway to indicate that it's a bus stop. So whether it's in the form of chevrons or, what you're talking about, Councillor Bernardo, just something so, everybody knows that that's where a bus is going to be stopping.
Okay. Just before we vote on this, because Jim mentioned it, it may actually save me from bringing a notice of motion. So I just ask for your indulgence for one more second. Yeah. Jim talked about working with Gray with respect to relocation of stops, and then eventually them becoming or finding a ultimate resting place. The ones, for example, on Owen Sound, I just want to give my comments there, because if that's already being addressed, then I'll forego bringing this notice of motion. But so I've had the opportunity to go and see those stops. To me, where they're located, particularly the one, I guess, if you are traveling on Owen side coming into or approaching Main Street, the one that's there on the shoulder in that dirt patch. I think having a Grey County vehicle stop there with that traffic and the flow of traffic there, I think poses a problem in my view. I think it's also dangerous, not only maybe for the drivers stopping in that area, but it's also dangerous for the pedestrians who would be embarking or disembarking from the vehicle where it's located. One of the things I could tell you that I've seen at the TTC, for example, is, and some will say, well, let me just make this point. Where the stop is located, I guarantee you people are going to be crossing the street and not at the traffic light. And it's foreseeable, in my opinion, that you're going to have an accident. And this is a situation where we can avoid it. And some may say, well, wait a second, why would somebody do that? Because the traffic signal is just a couple steps ahead. It happens all the time. And lawsuits like this happen all the time. And so what I was hoping was that we could move the stop from there, maybe even put it on to Susan. So get that traffic off of Owen Sound and having the vehicle stop there, maybe put it on to Susan, and then they could circle back, maybe come out on Jane Street, make that right onto Owen Sound and head right up to Main Street, ultimately to where that stop is on Main Street. So I don't know, Jim, if that's being looked at or whether there was any discussion regarding that, but I just think the location, especially when it's dark out there. I mean, I think it was this Councillor Fegan that was talking about the major accident on Owen Sound. I imagine no lighting and standing at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning on that dirt patch on Owen Sound. Like it's just an accident waiting to happen. So I hope, Jim, and maybe you could speak to this as to whether the discussion with respect to location or relocation of stops, particularly on that side of town, is being addressed.
It's for your worship. Yes, originally when I went out with Stephanie from Grey Transit, the locations that were picked there were because of that signalized intersection and the crosswalks, hoping that that would be a better crossing for pedestrians, that they could go with the light, that sort of thing. There has been some issues that they've noted with backing up traffic at Owen Sound, traffic going out and around the buses. So yes, we have been looking at pulling the bus stop around Susan. It's a good width there. We just got to look a little further into that, and then having them kind of through the subdivision and rotate around. Same idea off Fiddle Park. Similar idea there. Get them right off 10 altogether. So, or Owen Sound.
Did I see your hand there? Yeah.
I just wanted to convey that a lot of the comments that the deputy mayor has made were certainly concurred with what Grey has experienced in their launch. So some of the lessons learned are the routing choices. What's critical that was established at the outset was ensuring that they reach Orangeville in time to connect into the GO system through the process. So the routing was in Shelburne to ensure that those timelines were met. So we're re-looking at the routes to ensure that safety is paramount. And as Jim just mentioned, circling back through different routes, including on Fiddle Park Lane, and whether it's in front of the CDRC, for example, and not at the corner of 89 and William, but up a little bit further, whether it's in front of the dry cleaners or another location, is underway right now. And we hope to have some of those new stops announced in the next couple of weeks.
Excellent. All right, so we'll call the question on the on the road markings motion. All in favor? Carried. All right, and then the final notice of motion from the deputy mayor from the last meeting was a direction to staff to report back on the cost options of bus shelters for the various stop locations. A seconder for that one. Councillor Donato again. Okay. Deputy Mayor, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. We've been fortunate with the Grey County Transit Initiative to not spend a nickel. And I say, why not spend a nickel to really protect our residents from the inclement weather that we know is going to come in the town of Shelburne? And so if the cost is not absorbent to provide some shelter, and I'm not anticipating we're going to get the kind of heated shelters with all the technical apps that we find in Brampton or in Toronto, but if we could put something that even resembles an umbrella for our pedestrians or our patrons that are going to be using the transit system, then I think that would go a long way in warming up to the system in the usage of the system. So that's where I was going with that. But hopefully staff will come back and provide us with some options as to what's feasible.
Based on the budget framework, it may actually end up with us being out there holding umbrellas for the.
So be it.
Councillor Bernardo, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can't imagine someone standing out in the rain trying to, waiting for a bus, nor can I imagine somebody sitting in about a foot and a half of snow falling on them while they're out there waiting for that bus. So a shelter is something that, makes it at least bearable. And like the deputy mayor said, it doesn't have to be heated and doesn't have to have internet in it, but at least protect you from the elements that are out there. And he's quite correct. We haven't spent any money on it. We have a transit system going through the town, at least for the next couple of years. Surely we can put something into place for the bus stops so that we protect our own citizens.
Any other comments on that? Sorry, Councillor Buffett.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there's always a possibility of doing some media advertising on the shelters that could help offset the cost.
Okay. Good point. All right. All in favor? All right, it's carried. Okay, any notices of motion from this evening?
We've got enough.
All right. Okay, on to communications, and just before we do that, the deputy mayor reminded me I probably should have brought this up during council inquiries, but anyways, I'll do it briefly here. Denise did share a press release with council today, but this morning I was part of a virtual announcement involving a number of the mayors from Dufferin County, Warden White, as well as Mayor Thompson from the town of Caledon. The announcement was led by MPP Sylvia Jones, as well as MPP and Minister Hardeman, and the MP from the city of Guelph. And essentially it was an announcement to announce the formal commencement of some high-speed broadband infrastructure projects within Dufferin County. And anybody who's followed this at all over the last couple of years may have heard of the SWIFT program. It stands for the Southwestern Integrated Fiber Technology. It was a program that was initiated by the Southwestern Wardens Caucus. And basically what it's done is it's allowed projects like this one that was announced this morning to go forward in a partnership model between all three levels of government as well as private sector. So the crux of the announcement this morning, just to cut to the chase, was a $10.3 million investment that will see 5 broadband projects within Dufferin County. I think kind of the common theme through the morning session was that that this is certainly not a fix-all, that this won't solve all of Dufferin County's connectivity issues, but it is certainly a step in the right direction. And what it will do, and the deputy mayor can attest to this because we've seen some of the details, but what it will do is create some major trunk lines, I guess, for lack of a better term, through the county, through some major corridors, and then over time, smaller lines can then be accessed from these main trunk lines. So the main beneficiaries of this, I think, will be areas, more rural areas within Dufferin County, who have little to no access to high-speed internet as it stands right now. But like I say, it is certainly a first step, but an important step in the right direction, and I think there's certainly room to grow from there. So the timelines, they're expecting to start the projects within the next month or so. So I think they hope to start in November. and they're looking at about a year's worth of work to do. So they're hoping to have it all wrapped up by next December. So there'll be lots more to be shared as time goes on, but that was the initial announcement, and it's certainly good news for our Dufferin County community largely.
Sorry, Mayor Mills, I did have, I forgot, I did have a notice of motion, if I could just put it forward really quickly before you move to the communications. If that's possible.
Yep.
Thank you. So this is a motion to direct staff to complement, I guess is the best way to put it, the marketing of Grey County when it comes to the system itself, i.e. the stops, the scheduling, etc. And I know that staff, particularly Carol Maitland, has been waiting for Grey County to provide marketing materials so that could go forward. But I wanted to bring this motion forward to suggest that we supplement whatever Grey County may be doing to ensure that our residents are fully aware of the transit system, because I'm sure you guys are getting the same questions as to where are the stops, what are the timelines, is it running on weekends, a number of questions. And I think that this could be easily resolved if we take a similar approach that we took, for example, when it came to the Shelburne Task Force, the Anti-Racism Task Force, where, for example, we utilized our free time on Country 105. We did a couple of ads in the newspaper, and we also did our social media, which won't cost us anything. And then to do a mail drop where every resident actually gets something in the mail that speaks to the use of the transit system, again, available time, etc. So something that we could put that every resident gets that, because I think without doing it in that comprehensive fashion, then we're not necessarily setting up the system for success. We want to do that because certainly the residents have been asking for, and they keep asking questions regarding details of the use. And so I do want to bring that forward for discussion at our next meeting.
Okay, note that. All right, so there are 8 items of communication. Is there anything that anybody wants to pull out and deal with independently? No, if not, can I get a motion to receive those items listed under agenda item 9, is communication? Moved by Councillor Buffett, seconded by Councillor Wagner. All in favor? That's carried. All right, and can I get a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Donato, seconded by Councillor Hall. All in favor? Carried. And the one we've been waiting for, mover and seconder to adjourn. Councillor Donald Rush, Councillor Fegan. All right, all in favor? Carried. All righty. Thank you all. Late night, but take care.
Okay.